An unmanned aircraft flies over a small town, where the residents realize the situation and immediately prepare to launch an attack. Soon after, a group of soldiers arrives and finds the town deserted, with everyone hiding inside their shelters. After informing the colonel named Mason about a bomb device on the ground, a soldier named Jake asks for permission to disarm it. Although Mason strongly opposes, Jake ignores his objection and continues his effort until he finally succeeds in disarming the device. At that moment, a second hidden bomb explodes, causing the deaths of most of the troops. A fierce shootout happens soon after as people come out of the buildings and surround the soldiers. At the same time, the troops begin to fire their weapons toward the group. Jake and Mason are the last two soldiers alive after many others fall everywhere. Jake heads toward his colonel, unaware that an enemy is behind him. However, Mason saves his life just in time before a helicopter arrives. 5 years have passed since the incident, and Jake tries to cope with his new life as a civilian while also taking medication to treat his post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. In his new role at an auto repair shop owned by his uncle, Earl, he must put extra effort into dealing with customers who feel entitled to certain things. After Jake finishes his shift at work, he returns home to spend time with his family. In public, he maintains a cheerful attitude toward his child, but behind closed doors, tension rises when his wife brings up unpaid bills, meaning they are in debt. However, Jake assures her that he will handle it well, just as he always does. One of the things Jake does before putting his child to bed is show a photo and tell a story about his former team. He also says that Mason is in the hospital for recovery. Jake laments the fact that he hasn't spoken to Mason for quite a long time, and when his child asks if he has ever killed someone, Jake avoids the topic. When Jake arrives at work the next day, he finds a group of thugs claiming that Earl owes them a favor. Fresh, the leader, sends his men to beat Jake. But when Jake tries to drive them out of the building, he easily defeats them all with a wrench. Fresh convinces him to stop by showing his gun, and then he leaves with his gang after swearing that they will have a round 2 very soon. After that, Jake confronts Earl, who admits that he was also a member of a gang in the past, but he eventually escaped that life and built a place he can call his own. As a result, Earl manages to convince Jake that he will always protect his block, and Jake doesn't need to worry about his family. Since he believes the conflict is still ongoing, Jake decides to call his family to check on them, and his wife comments that he should have called the police instead of getting involved. By the end of the night, Jake returns home and finds Fresh sitting in his car, talking about revenge before leaving. Panicking, Jake rushes into the house and finds that his wife and child have already been killed. He can't believe it and ends up screaming and crying in despair. When the police arrive a short while later and try to interview him about the incident, Jake loses his composure and drives away in his vehicle. As he roams the city searching for Fresh's car, his mind keeps flashing back to the happiest moments he spent with his family. After some time, he finds Fresh's vehicle parked outside a club. Jake immediately enters with his gun in hand and begins to eliminate every gang member without mercy. Fresh insists that he didn't intend to kill Jake's family, but felt forced to do it because he had no other choice. Even so, Jake's decision doesn't change, and he ultimately kills Fresh. As Jake continues to spend most of his days imagining Fresh killing his family, his post-traumatic stress disorder worsens. 5 months later, Jake serves time in prison for his crime. One day, Mason surprises Jake by visiting him and offering his help to reopen the investigation. However, Jake refuses to leave, saying that he feels like he's already in the right place. Continuing what he said in court, he declares that he has taken his revenge and would do it again. Then Jake orders the guard to take him back to his cell and tells Mason never to return again. That night, Jake finds himself reminiscing about his military days and how Mason once saved his life. After some time, a man named Ramsey, a stranger, visits Jake and introduces himself as the leader of a private task force. But Jake refuses to let Ramsey free him, and once again asks the guards to take him back. Jake dreams about his family at night, when, suddenly, a group of masked men breaks into his cell, drugs him, and eventually kidnaps him. When Jake wakes up, he finds himself outside the prison and realizes that Ramsey is his captor. Ramsey admits that he has been observing Jake for a long time and expresses his admiration for his performance. Ramsey believes that his group, known as Section 8, can give Jake a new purpose since they don't follow the usual norms. Ramsey suggests that Jake should see him as a hero rather than a villain, and as a result, Jake eventually agrees to join the group. Later that day, in a big city, Ramsey introduces Jake to other team members, especially one named Ajax and another named Mueller. After that, he takes Jake around a place he describes as his Batman-style headquarters, explaining that they have 8 agents stationed in this city and 8 others around the world. Both the State Department and the National Security Agency issue their orders, and they're always connected to handling threats. Mueller becomes Jake's supervisor and accompanies him on all missions until he reaches a senior level, as Jake has just started his new career. The public believes Jake is already dead, so they also provide him with a bank account, an apartment in the city, a car, a background, and an identity. After that, Jake is told to leave, and it becomes the team's responsibility to make sure Jake successfully completes the initiation process. Ajax starts to provoke him by repeatedly punching and pushing him to get his attention. Ajax's aggressive behavior causes Jake to lose his composure. Jake is determined to avoid a fight, and he tries his best to stay away from all of it. He knocks Ajax to the ground and almost stabs his eye with a pin, but suddenly, the memory of his family flashes through his mind, and he manages to regain his calm. After that, Jake leaves, and the displeased Ajax argues that since Jake has shown fear, he doesn't belong among them. However, Mueller disagrees. Later, Jake and Mueller discuss Jake's first mission on the plane. The target is a man named Castillo, who is a contractor as well as an arms dealer. Jake's mission is to obtain the documents and eliminate Castillo and his team, as they have just acquired a potentially deadly blueprint that they plan to sell to the Russians. Since Jake concludes that Castillo and his team are basically a group of killers, he has no desire to kill anyone again. They find Castillo there, where he plans to conduct a transaction with a Russian negotiator in a warehouse when both parties arrive in Mexico that night. While Castillo and the Russian argue, Jake quietly takes out a guard outside the warehouse. The noise from the argument between the two gangs quickly escalates into a gunfight, making both groups believe that the other side is trying to trap them. Eventually, the conflict ends when gang members start dying one by one, even causing a vehicle to explode. Then Jake comes out of hiding and eliminates everyone who manages to escape until he finds Castillo alone, and finally, he finishes him off. Jake then checks inside a vehicle and finds 2 terrified women. He chooses to ignore them and instead takes the documents before leaving. When they return to the base, Ramsey scolds Jake for violating their mission's integrity by allowing the 2 women to live. Jake tries to explain that they are victims, accusing Ramsey of not valuing human life. In response, Ramsey threatens to send Jake back to prison if he doesn't follow his orders. After that, Ramsey walks away, and Mueller tells him that Jake has done a fantastic job. However, Ramsey still refuses to accept it, so Ajax steps in and says that Jake has made a mistake. Soon after, Ramsey finds himself alone. He makes a phone call to someone named Locke. The next day, Locke, who is a mercenary, infiltrates a hotel, eliminates several staff members, and enters a room. Once inside, he terrifies the women and then confronts the man he is looking for. The man knows that Ramsey is the one who sends Locke, and he tries to bribe him with a large amount of money. Nevertheless, Locke isn't interested, and finally, his target ends up dead. After that, Locke hides himself by escaping through the hotel casino, but the security guards quickly become suspicious and start chasing him. As he continues to flee, Locke easily defeats every guard who approaches him. Along the way, he breaks objects and knocks down the guards who come near. At some point, he pulls out a firearm and fires several bullets to spread fear among the gamblers. In addition, he eliminates a security guard before exiting and stealing a vehicle to escape. While settling into his new home, Jake finds a frame containing several photos of his time as a volunteer, which surprises him. It reminds him of his conversation with Mason. Later, Jake drinks at a bar when Mueller joins him. After Mueller joins him, Jake tries to gather some information from her. Mueller doesn't know Ramsey's background, but the only thing she knows about him is that he once attacked a superior officer who scolded him when he was still a soldier. Later on, Ramsey assigns them a new mission: to collect all digital evidence related to an important case and eliminate a senator named Graham, a traitor to the nation who has bribed many people to maintain his freedom. Considering the tight security, Ramsey instructs everyone, especially Jake, that they must act. After several hours, the group comes out of disguise as gardeners and arrives at Graham's event in a big city. The security officers finally realize the situation and take Graham away in a van. Mueller enters the office and eliminates every guard she can find. While Mueller hacks the senator's computer, Jake chases Graham, firing several bullets at him, but misses. Jake takes a shortcut by jumping over a hill and manages to block the road, as the van moves too fast to be followed. Jake immediately eliminates the guards who fight back, but when he approaches Graham, the man pleads not to shoot him, claiming that he has a family. As a result of an unexpected flood of memories, Jake decides to let Graham live. Even so, Jake's squad arrives, and Ajax ends up killing Graham. He tells Jake that he should never hesitate to finish a target. Later, when Jake is at home, he deals with his shame and tears by drinking and staring at pictures. The sudden appearance of masked men running outside his window forces him to take cover. Jake manages to avoid capture by escaping through the back door during a room-by-room search. The next day, Jake visits Mason and informs him about everything that has happened. Mason states that he knows about the real dissolution of Section 8 back in 1990s, and that the current operation only consists of discredited agents from the military, CIA, FBI, and other similar agencies. If Jake runs from Section 8, he puts himself in a dangerous situation since they have important contacts who can eliminate him. Despite all that, Mason admits that he doesn't know Ramsey. In addition, he agrees to provide Jake with some money and firearms to help him. Jake then returns to his hometown, where he receives a phone call from Ramsey. Ramsey wants to meet Jake to discuss the situation, but Jake refuses to meet him. Locke, who is currently hiding in another country, receives a call from Mueller on Ramsey's order, assigning him to eliminate Jake. Later, Jake meets his late son's close friend. During their conversation about the tragedy, Jake learns that before his family was killed, the boy saw Fresh with men wearing black suits, similar to secret agents depicted in comic books. Jake drags the young man into a shop before escaping the scene, as Locke arrives and opens fire. As Locke eliminates several witnesses, panic spreads throughout the city. The police arrive shortly after, but Locke shoots them too, escalating the chaos. Locke borrows a police vehicle and starts to hunt Jake, while also calling Ramsey to tell him what happens. This diversion allows Jake to escape, and Locke also calls Ramsey to inform him of what happens. Jake and Earl quickly gather weapons to fight Ramsey's troops, who have already arrived after a sudden beep from the computer marks their approach. One of the agents almost shoots Jake, but Earl quickly responds by shooting him. Moments later, another agent jumps at Jake, and the two of them start a fight on top of a vehicle. Suddenly, Ajax opens fire at both of them. While one of the agents turns to yell at him for his foolishness, Jake takes the chance to finish the agent by stabbing him with a screwdriver, and finally, he dies. Using the corpse as a shield, Jake takes his rifle and shoots back at Ajax, who resumes his fire. However, he quickly runs out of ammo and cannot continue his shots. Even though he still has some bullets left, Ajax deliberately throws them away to prove his superiority over Jake by engaging in another hand-to-hand fight. The two men start exchanging punches all over the store. Ajax tries to stab Jake, but Mueller shoots him instead, and finally, Ajax dies. After Jake makes sure Earl is safe, Earl gives his car key to Jake, allowing him to escape the area as the police approach. Then Mueller explains that she saves Jake because she also wants to escape from Section 8. For some reason, Jake doesn't trust her and asks to be taken to Ramsey's house. After they arrive at his house the next day, the two of them sneak through the forest to find Ramsey's cabin. But when Jake turns around, a sudden punch knocks him down and finally, he faints. After dreaming about his family, Jake wakes up in a room with Ramsey and Mueller, who has been working for Ramsey to set a trap for him. Mason enters the room to respond to Ramsey's announcement, revealing to Jake that he has also been working with Ramsey. Mason gives them the information to find Jake because the organization needs an agent with abilities like his. This reveals that they pay Fresh to kill his family. Jake cannot accept that Mason betrays him. After the gang leaves Jake alone, Mason later gives the agreed-upon money to Ramsey and Mueller. Mason agrees with Ramsey's suggestion that they should kill Jake because he is a burden, but he chooses to ignore the situation. Mason visits Jake and frees him before revealing the truth. It turns out Mason receives payment to destroy Section 8 from within, and now he asks for Jake's help to finish his mission. Mueller counts the money while Mason is there. After that, Mason deliberately triggers the alarm, and when two guards arrive to check, they immediately kill them. While searching for Ramsey, both of them kill everyone who gets in their way. When Ramsey sees them, he hides with Mueller and hands over the money Mason gave. This marks the beginning of another gunfight as bullets destroy their surroundings. Ramsey tries to convince Jake that Mason is the one to blame for everything, but Jake doesn't believe him. Mueller sneaks in and tries to kill Jake while they argue. Ramsey tries to take the money, but Jake scares him with a few bullets from his gun. Jake runs to check on his friend. First, Mason pleads with Jake to finish his mission before he finally dies from his wounds. At that moment, Mueller intervenes and tries to kill Jake, but she runs out of ammo, so they start to fight hand-to-hand. Mueller stabs Jake's shoulder after they exchange punches, but Jake uses the chance to twist her own hand and stab her chin until it pierces through, and finally, she dies. After that, Jake runs outside and realizes that Ramsey has escaped in a car. As a result, he decides to steal another car and chase Ramsey. Ramsey becomes disturbed by Jake until he finally crashes his vehicle, and Ramsey ends up in an accident. As Jake approaches the crash site, Ramsey mocks him for his hesitation. But not this time. Jake doesn't hesitate to shoot him, and finally, Ramsey dies. The police take Jake to meet a general named Savoy, Mason's former superior, at night. Jake refuses Savoy's invitation to join his force, saying that he has nothing left to fight for, even though Savoy offers him a job and a new beginning if he accepts. Just in case, Savoy gives him his business card to contact him. After some time passes, Jake returns to his home, only to find Locke waiting for him. Locke intends to finish his job because his reputation requires him to do so. Almost instantly, a hand-to-hand fight breaks out between the two, where they show their incredible combat skills by attacking each other using anything in the room. As the fight continues in the kitchen, both of them grab knives and keep slashing each other until Locke knocks Jake to the floor. This allows Jake to grab his gun lying on the ground, then shoot Locke, and finally he dies. Earl receives a voicemail from Jake the next morning, where he thanks him for everything and also tells Earl that he is leaving. When Jake is on a bus, he sees a woman and her child sharing a beautiful moment together. When Jake calls Savoy to accept his offer, he tells him that he now has something worth fighting for, and his mind once again fills with memories of his own family. Section 8 movie ends with Savoy warmly welcoming Jake, and finally, he accepts the direct invitation to go to the new section, Section 9. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the latest recaps.